Okay, so quick introduction. Anthony is the CEO of Coastline Equity. It's a real estate firm. It's actually a property management firm, and they are using AI in almost every level of their business. It has saved, countless hours. They're doing all kinds of things they weren't doing. They're having better performance. It's a growing company. They've grown like something like 3 to 5x over the last couple of years, and a lot of it's through using AI practices and using some other things here as well. So. That's funny. I guess we get some hecklers in the chat here, so please, be respectful. And then we've got Sara, who's the tech visionary. She's a multi-talented engineer and the founder of Gen AI-enabled founder community. So she basically runs this meetup in the Bay Area, and she's also a guru in AI strategy and vision, helping businesses leverage AI to drive their innovation as well. And her experience spans across various industries. She has a tech background. Really excited to have you here, Sara. How are you today?
Good. A pleasure to be here. I'm very excited to share some thoughts on what's going on with generative AI, especially, my focus in startup and is also relevant to smaller businesses and investment. And I have a lot of thoughts I'm happy to share.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, great. Well, we'll get to Anthony here in a minute. Let's start with you for a minute, and I'm sure I can contribute to this as well. But everyone, knows AI is going to change their life. If you're here and in the chat, you can just seem to be, put in what ways maybe you're using AI. I use, ChatGPT regularly. Use it for all kinds of things, from content creation, and ideation to used to take me hours to create videos for my YouTube channel, and now I'm able to do it in just a very short period of time. But why don't you talk a little bit about just what the competitive edge that you see really when it comes to different industries and particularly in the tech world, but just some things that you're seeing as far as how AI is changing our lives, and especially going forward, what that's going to look like.
Yeah. So you want me to start, right?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. And okay, so I usually like to when I start talking about this, is about, everybody has heard about generative AI since it was like this big thing last year. And we all have heard about a lot of amazing potential, and also a lot of people who believe this is a fad. So my perspective is, it's never black and white. So I might use this term a few times as we're talking today. And there's always a gray scale. And we have to, based on different contexts, we have to evaluate that scale and where it fits. So whether generative AI is a fad or here to stay, again, there is a gray scale. So I have been seeing a lot of different trends since last year in investment form. First one were these wrapper companies who can give you a specific expertise. That was the first wave, and then it came small foundational models that they could, do text to speech or music or animation things separately. And then right now is the generative AI agent or agent as a service wave going on, talking from the Silicon Valley perspective of what we see most with startups. What right now, Bronson, can you just remind me what is the makeup of the audience? Do we have founders? Do we have investors?
Yes, we'll go back to the poll here. It's about 50% real estate investors, a little over 60% business owners. If you haven't filled out the poll, please do that. There's 56 people answered, which is great. And then we've got 36% of people just looking to learn more about AI.
Okay, perfect. So for, I can talk a little bit for investors in case you have any curiosity on how to break into generative AI world, and also for business owners. So let's just, diverge to two different topics. About small business owners, there are different tiers, obviously, that how you could take advantage of generative AI. If you're like a solopreneur or if just a few people working together, is a different strategy than if you're probably an enterprise up to 20 people, and there's a different strategy if you're up to 100 people. And then, larger than that, obviously, is like big enterprise and is probably outside a scope of today. So what I see that might fit the very few founders and also relevant to investors, one of the biggest trends that I absolutely believe in and I look for is what I call 3 founder unicorns. And what these are when a few super smart founders, not even necessarily technical, come together and they start automating operations. So anything that has to do with operations, from HR to customer service to product management to business development, everything that is related to that, they start creating their own agents and running them and making progress and working. So when they create these agents, they don't need to hire for it, and that real potential of AI for automation comes in place, because for the first time we have generative AI that can really accomplish more complicated tasks than ever before in a much easier way.
Well, now they're saying too, real quick, just interrupt you, that you can actually call sometimes a center and not know if you're talking to a human or you're talking to an AI. And actually in the future, they say you'll actually call and you'll get, somebody on the phone, you say, are you a computer or are you a person? And they'll say, I'm a computer. And they'll say, you'll be like, well, I'm so glad, because they've dealt with a million other sales calls and they actually can solve your problem. So that's really great.
Exactly. Oh yeah, absolutely. One example, like I try to make it really quick, that like, what is this huge change of automation? When I was a founder in Berlin, early pandemic, my background is product management at Google. I run this big program globally for Google, so I have a really big ego when it comes to product management. But I've never done marketing. And, my startup reached the point that I needed a marketing plan. And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm not comfortable to pick up the phone and call my marketing friends and, tell them I'm an absolute idiot. I don't know anything about marketing. So what I did was, for 2 weeks, day and night, 16 hours a day, I just studied marketing online. The first few days, 4 or 5 days, it was kind of like a lot of BS, because, the internet is full of BS, and I had to plow through it until I could kind of recognize what content is relevant or good. And then eventually I understood, what criteria do you consider, what type of marketing exists, what type of companies. And after about 2 weeks, I had 2 possible marketing plans. And that's when I picked up the phone and called my marketing friends. Now, if I'm a founder and I observe in a lot of founders, what do? They sit behind ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever that is, maybe about an hour and a half. All you need to talk to ChatGPT, teach me marketing, ask me relevant question about my company, and help you understand what do I need to consider, what is like a good thing, what is a good marketing manager, what is a good marketing budget, any possible question you're going to have, or tell me what questions I even need to ask you to understand marketing. I don't know marketing. What happens after 2-3 hours, you could say, give me 10 marketing plan based on what you have learned about my product. Tell me pros and cons, and also help me, narrow down to 2 marketing plans. So like what I did in 2 weeks, 2-3 years ago, I could do in 2 hours right now. So this is the power of creating agents. And then I always say, again, here is not black and white, is not full automation or full human being, is based on your need, requirement, and business. You have to figure out what is the balance of automation and human being. Is that what I want to say is, like, after that 2-3 hours of working with GPT, coming up with plan, that's the moment you pick up the phone and reach out to either a marketing friend or, a consultant, and within half an hour, they can really set you for success.
It really does. It does save so much time, for sure. Awesome. We have Anthony. Thank you for sharing, Sara. Anthony, I know, welcome back. We had a little technical issue there, so welcome back. Why don't you give us, what we were going over was just the competitive edge that you're seeing in your industry. I know you're going to do a demonstration here in a little bit for us, but can you just talk at a broader level about some ways that you've seen, ChatGPT and other AI programs be able to really change your industry?
Yeah, I think for any industry, any entrepreneur, any business is really about, supercharging the entrepreneur, supercharging the team. I don't think we're anywhere near, the big fears of replacing team members or eliminating jobs, at least not in property management. What it's really doing is augmenting our team and giving them that extra support of, rather than having to go look through best practices again or reread all those books again. With the right training on your models and the right knowledge base, you can have all of that at your fingertips, whether you're the business owner, and in my case, property managers, assistant property managers. We can have all of that knowledge, whether it's a book or SOPs or proven processes, in quick memory, in that knowledge base.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing, man. I want to add another poll here. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in, as how much are you using ChatGPT in a given day? So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here, and I want you to respond. So I appreciate it. We almost have a lot of people respond to the first poll. Let's go ahead and make this interactive. So Can I launch this? Poll has been launched in your meeting. I may have to cancel the other one first. Here we go. End this poll. Share results. Okay, that's the results from the first one. If you guys can see that. And then I actually have to stop. Everybody see that? Everybody got that recorded? I'm going to stop sharing that. And I'm going to go into, it's the first time I've done a poll here. So it's working. Okay. So this one, as we go into you sharing, I just want people to respond how much you're using ChatGPT other than another LLM per day. Because again, this is going to be showing how much it's actually impacting, how much you're actually using it. Some people are not using it at all. And I think we're in a stage that if you're not using ChatGPT or Claude, or I guess it's Anthropic now, some of these other services, you can really be left behind. So Anthony, you can go ahead and share your screen. And this is why Anthony showed me some of this stuff a while ago. We've been friends for a while. And there's some stuff that he's doing. He's created some custom GPTs that I think that are awesome. So if you can give us kind of a high level, walk us through, share the screen, just kind of show us ways that you're using this in your business to really impact the bottom line and also save time for employees and all the systems that you have.
Yeah, before I even share my screen, I think one kind of disclaimer for anybody that's using ChatGPT today, because I saw somebody talk about like, hey, I hit my token window, I hit my maximum tokens. So you will need, if you're doing this on ChatGPT, which is the simplest, or at least I find one of the easiest tools out there to build those custom GPT models for yourself, you will need a paid subscription to do so. So you won't hit those token windows. So let me go ahead and
$20 a month, so it's not outrageous. It's $20 a month.
Or if you own a company and you want to put your team on it, it's $10 per month for your company, nice. Which is what we have our leadership team on today. So what you're looking at here is an example of one of our models, one of our custom models. This is called our Luna's Leadership and EOS Advisor. So we operate our business on the entrepreneurial operating system called EOS. And it's meant to coach me and our leadership team on remembering those EOS best practices. You know, as they're thinking about like, hey, I'm facilitating my level 10 and this challenge is coming up. And I'll give you some of those examples. This tool will go back to all of those EOS books and best practices and pull out those reminders and those nuggets. So again, not replacing any member of our team, but really supporting their development.
So this is just to people understand that little kind of thing on the bottom for the attachments. You add all these documents in here that are either books on this topic or other sorts of things, and he can show you what's added in here. And then it basically becomes like a manual to help employees of, hey, am I doing this from the correct approach?
So here I've opened up the configuration, the edit screen. So when you're building a custom GPT, you can either do it using the LLM, having that conversation with that large language model, and it'll prompt you a bit. Or once you start to get more proficient, you can configure it exactly how you want it. So all the way down to the LLM will recommend some names if you'd like it to. But in this case, this is a model that I built myself. I gave it a name, I gave it a description, and this is called the prompt. So lots of people are here, you hear about prompt engineering. So this is where I think really the more practice you spend, the more time you spend practicing using large language models and using tools like ChatGPT, the better you'll get at prompting. But you'll see that I've given this prompt with here are my core functions: meeting preparation, internal memos, team guidance, remembering our company core values, content guidelines. You know, I want you to be concise, impactful, avoid filler, voice and tone. So, and then kind of some more behind the scenes on how our business runs. So,
and Anthony, the question on this, how did you come up with this prompt? Was it kind of trial and error and you kept kind of tweaking it to get it right and you put things in there important?
So combination of, I spend a lot of time on prompt engineering, but I've also built myself a prompt engineering custom GPT. So chicken or the egg, I built the egg that hatched the egg. So, hey, I need a prompt or a custom GPT to help Bronson
grow some hair.
Hill, grow his hair back out. That's not going to help Sarah. It's the prompt engineer, though. Help Bronson Hill coach his support team at Bronson Equity. So, and this will go ahead and help me consider, and it's going to prompt me as a reminder, hey, I still need to know what are Bronson's specific goals? What are their responsibilities? So it's going to ask me some questions. I'm going to tell it in this scenario, I'm going to say, just guess and help me answer the questions. Again, just for sake of time, I don't want to go through each one of these answers and questions, but I'm going to go ahead and just force it to give me an answer. So we're going to go ahead. You could then take this prompt and start to build that custom GPT. Probably the most important part, at least for me, when we're making internal custom tools like this, is the knowledge base. So what are those documents that I'm giving to the tool to be able to recall back to constantly? And I think that's one of the early challenges of LLMs is they only have so many tokens to keep referring back to old information. But if you give it that knowledge base, it will refer back to that knowledge base every single time. So in this case, I've given it all of my EOS best practices and my leadership best practices at Coastline Equity for our property management company. And I gave it a white paper that I wrote to my team at the start of the year that really explained where we're going as a company and my vision for the company in 2024. So it remembers kind of where we're going this year to support my leadership team on how they craft their coaching.
I want to take a little pause real quick. I want to hear from Sara in a minute here too, as you're sharing, you can kind of jump in, but and we can kind of do some more demo here too. But maybe somebody can share in the chat what are ways that you're using ChatGPT in your business or your life, or some custom GPTs that you've created. Just what functions are those things? I think it's really helpful to brainstorm and just be able to share knowledge and things like that. Sara, or even what you're getting out of what Anthony's sharing, maybe just share that in the chat as well. Sara, do you have anything you want to add here?
Yes, I really love what you're doing, and I really love the creativity behind actually creating your own prompt engine. Like the things I see people created is just, literally the sky is the limit. I had, for example, one of the founders I worked with, if you're a founder, if you're an investor, one of the hardest thing to do is market research. It's expensive, it's time consuming, everybody hates it, and founders only do it when they need to raise funds. And it's never accurate. You don't even know. So one of them, what they did, for example, they created in Perplexity, because again, back in the day, that was the best, most accurate research tool. They had one agent, Perplexity agent, per competitor, that every Monday morning it would go search the web. It's like, do they have a new PR? Have they raised money? Have they hired, fired? Any news about them, and make a summary for every competitor. There was another one that searches is like a new competitor that came to market. There was another one is like, is there a new publication, scientific research released about it? And every Monday morning they had a brand new market research on the desk with an updated SWOT analysis. So the creativity, and what I like to remind people is, if you're dating, let's date ourselves. If you remember that the era of digitization, where things from analog were being moved to websites, the first wave was they would just copying whatever the arduous process was to do it analog, and then the whole design thinking and all of this came into software development and say, wait a minute, instead of doing this in 20 steps, we actually with software we can innovate and do it in 3. Why do we go the hard way? And again, that example of market research, an example of like a meta level, and that the way we have been traditionally doing things, we don't need to do it. We could actually automate a lot of process and have much better, more accurate information. One other thing I would like to share, maybe, Anthony, if you want to share some more, it's about how I think about, ChatGPT, a simple, single LLM, wrappers and agents, and then, super AI, and then, but maybe Anthony, if you have anything to share.
Yeah, I would say, my experience is definitely limited to what I can learn on my own. And definitely, I think, ChatGPT has been able to help me, ChatGPT and other AI tools, learn how to code. And there's some great tools out there that we're using to actually, for me, I've never coded until these LLMs were available. But to be able to write code for my website or for other tools to build lead magnets myself is very, very new. But in terms of advanced AI, that's not something I have access to yet. So I think you would kind of treat me as, again, small business owner, local business here in Southern California that is really using off-the-shelf available consumer tools and trying to find implementations for the business that support my team and the work we do for our clients.
I want to share one thing too, real quick. I've used this. I'm more of a novice in this, but this is it's called Personal Advisor. It's one of my GPTs here. that I created. I'm just going to go. I've got all these windows up here, but for me, what I did is I put in, with the brand that I have, if anybody creates content, I put in my personality test, I put in my goals, personal goals. I have some different source documents in here as well. I have a book that I wrote. I put it in here. I put the books I read this year, the bio. You can put all this in here and I just run different things through here. How does this business idea work for me? Or create based on my topic. And I had my blog and other things be added to some of these bios and things like this. And what it does is it just gives a filter to kind of runs things through. But one thing we did actually recently, I heard this in a presentation by Eben Pagan, and he basically had a group of people that really were using, I imagine we're kind of preaching to the choir here, but if you're like, well, I don't know how to use, ChatGPT in my life, he had us write down what are the things in our lives, not even in our business, but in our lives that are the most important. Like, what are the most important relationships? What are the most important health things? What are the most important things that you want to accomplish in your life? And what are the biggest problems you're dealing with right now? Just literally write them down. And then he said, what if you have somebody who had 155 IQ, which is a 1 in 10,000 person IQ, to be able to help you solve this? And of course, those of you who are using this, that's what ChatGPT is. That's why spending the time and actually doing this to solve any problem is really, really great. I give a lot of personal examples of that. Anthony, I'd love for you to share a little more of some of the different things, because you've got all kinds of stuff. You've created manuals, and it's like a Q&A for employee, handbook kind of stuff, and all kinds of things that you've done. So I'd love for you to share a little more of that.
Yeah, and I'll share my screen again and go to one of our tools that our PM team, our property management team, can use as they're communicating with tenants. And I saw a chat come through, somebody saying, hey, there's no way to connect real-time data. And there is. So there are ways and there are tools out there to connect real-time data to some of these custom GPT models. This one is a tool our team can use if they're dealing with tenant communication, and they've kind of hit a roadblock of like, hey, I really can't figure out how to address the situation, or it's maybe a disgruntled tenant and they want some potential ideas to solve this problem. So again, just like I shared before and Bronson shared in his own custom GPT, this tool has a prompt, but more importantly, it has that real-time data. One of the most important things that our tenants are reaching out about are work orders, so those maintenance issues. So it has that real-time maintenance issue information in there. It has information on our brand. It has specific language around California real estate, because again, these large language models were educated on worldwide information. We want to make sure that things are specific to our market. Other data through 2023 that's not live, but is helpful. And then we have that live AppFolio integration, which is our property management software. So again, this tool can then help our team go ahead and respond to, let's say we have a disgruntled tenant. I have a tenant, and in a much faster way would be, if I copy and pasted all that correspondence history. Maybe there's 2 weeks worth of back and forth. I could put that right into the chat. But I have a tenant who is upset about ongoing construction at Hillside Terrace, and they are in unit 310. Help me present an update on the timeline, which will wrap up at the end of September 2024. But as we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead, and as it's running that answer, I'm going to pull up an actual tenant account in our portfolio and give you some real world examples. So again, it's going to pull on our internal policies, our best practices, and information about the project itself. And again, in this case, I didn't give it the full email, so it doesn't know who I am. So I could tell it who I am, my title, or I'm going to pull up a former tenant so that we can actually go through some tenant communication. So.
And a question came up here about privacy too. We can get to that later. We're just curious on what,
Yeah. So
put your social security number in here and stuff, but how private is this?
Yeah. One of the promises of ChatGPT, and again, you can take that at whatever value you give that to. But one of the promises of the custom GPT models is that this information is not shared and not trained on. So you can see it down on the bottom. You also see it in the service agreement that you sign. But anything that is a custom GPT that you build in a company workspace is not supposed to be used for any training models. But we also do not, to Bronson's points, we do not give any of our models social security numbers, private information in terms of like bank account information. We have given it, again, training model information and connections for work orders, tenant names, tenant ledger details, but nothing to a bank account or social security. But there is that policy that they wouldn't give that information out. But again, I'm going to copy and paste. Here is another communication that I want to follow up on. And I've gone into my property management software, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that previous communication with the former tenant. And it was a communication around a roof inspection, and it's helping this team member theoretically go ahead and send a follow-up response and make sure that they're available for that inspection that was scheduled. So Sarah,
one thing
questions or examples?
Yeah, if I want to add one thing here, is like I love every example you're using, is that again, it's not a black and white. It's not when this thing comes out, just blindly close your eyes and ship it out there. You always have to check. But the mental model I have for this is that ultimately the support that you can receive by Chat GPT and the like, and as the models become more advanced, is literally building your workforce. In an ideal workforce, you have anything from an intern to associates or entry level, to people like middle management, to executive, to CXO. And each tier of these people have different expertise, different capability, different decision making power. So keep that in mind. For example, creating these emails, it's as if you have your intern or maybe your associate entry level person do all or executive assistant who just onboarded a month ago, prepare the basic, but you always have to review. So don't go and use it and send it, but we all have probably heard the stories of, the lawyer who had like the closing argument, blah, blah, the disaster cases. And that's the oversight. And that's how you're going to get frustrated and disappointed. So keep in mind, AI is a tool that makes your life easier, but you have to use it smartly. You can't use it blindly.
And I think, Sarah, to that point, there's a question in the chat about that exact question. I don't want there to be a misconception that this is like a chat bot that we're letting run freely to our tenants or on the internet. This is exactly what you said, Sarah. This is a tool that our team can utilize to, it's what I said earlier. This is a way to supercharge our team and really eliminate some of those traditional inefficiencies that just happen in any business or any profession of needing to do, dig into all of the details, and just kind of speeds that process up. But yes, there have been attorneys that have been disbarred for not reviewing what they've pulled out of ChatGPT.
So I think one thing I wanted to mention too is that I think there's been a lot of talk around AI taking jobs, right? Oh, AI and robotics, or things are going to take our jobs. But I've been heard it said that it's not AI is going to like take your job. But the person who's empowered using AI is going to have a significant competitive advantage over somebody who's not using it. What are some other considerations or risks when it comes to AI? And obviously a lot of us believe it's not going to be the Terminator going out killing people, but there are some oversight. I know Elon Musk is very afraid of AI in the sense of it expanding and taking over and causing some serious malicious things. What are some of the concerns around AI besides privacy?
So one thing, I host a bunch of events, and I would love to, whoever from the audience is, if you're not on my mailing list, you're more than welcome to join. We are having, this event on August 23rd. I'm going to share the link shortly. And in the events I host, the gap I'm trying to cover is that when you think about generative AI events, they're either super technical that addressed towards builders and researchers, or they are like our event today, how to implement AI in your business, or they're investor focused, like what to invest in or not. And the non-technical conversations, if there is no AI expert and non-experts are talking, I have tried to participate in a few. It's a lot of BS, a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about. So the gap that I see is where people, smart, educated people, can go and engage in a conversation about AI. To your point, that's my trigger, saying Elon Musk is afraid, and there's so many other CEOs that are super supportive, and Elon Musk says it's like the worst thing possible. Then he invests billions of dollars building Grok himself, so it just doesn't make sense. One of the biggest problems we have right now is that our only source of, for better or worse, probably worse, source of information about future, there's a lot of promise, but there's a lot of unknown, and unknown is scary. And there are actual possibility for scary. of the future. It's a real threat. And we don't know, how to react to it. Asking these CEOs to tell us what future entails is just not the right thing. And again, I love analogies. The analogy I use here is, imagine Bronson is the smartest aerospace engineer building the most advanced airplanes, but it doesn't mean he knows anything, about flying. He doesn't know anything about how to build, where to build airports, how to run control tower, how to price tickets, business class versus economy. What is the impact of airline industry in local economies, global economy, global warming, if the airplane he builds is going to be used for humanitarian causes or human trafficking? All Bronson is doing is building a tool that people, like when it's shipped out the door, you have no control. So expecting that, CEOs of these generative AI companies, especially the big billion-dollar ones, tell us what future entails is that the only source of looking in the future in airline industry being the CEO of Boeing or CEO of airline industry. That just doesn't make sense. So I try to, and I think everybody, we need to inform ourselves. We need to engage. I've been playing with names. I was, in all of my events, I say, I hope you come with 5 questions, but I hope you leave with 50 questions. I'm not here to answer questions. It's future. Nobody knows. But I really want people to come and start thinking and engaging and knowing what are the right questions to ask. Yeah. So yeah, that was a trigger point for me.
I think that's a really great point, because I think I think one of the things is that we don't know where this is going. We don't know what it's going to look like, and we know that there's this incredible power here. And I really think, again, this is preaching to the choir, because you guys are obviously here. I have these couple of people chatting. I know in the room, you're very new to AI. Or new to using ChatGPT, other things, but really spending time to ask better questions is a very valuable skill, because you'll ask a question, and you'll get the wrong answer. Well, sometimes it's we're not asking the right questions, and so has a very transferable effect in your relationships with other people too. If you want to get a better answer, you got to ask a better question. And so it's interesting to see this play out. There's this thought of I might get this slightly wrong because I'm not a tech person, but I think Moore's law, computing power, doubles, or the memory doubles every 18 months. Well, it seems like it's 10x every year. It's exponential.
The first
AI.
time I started looking into, AI was probably 2017, 18. I started reading. There was a really good Obama administration report on AI. There was like Deloitte, blah, blah. And then one of the things that really stuck with me, was like a chart showing the advancement of technology through human history, like from let's say this is fire, wheel, whatever. And then, industrial revolution. And now we are at a place that is literally exponential. Like every change in 1 year equals 10 times the entire human history. So the speed of innovation and change, you're absolutely right, is exponential. And the challenge of it is a lot of things will stay the same, but a lot of things would never be the same. And then when I watch, I love, sci-fi movies. And when I watch some of them, and the most accurate depictions are this, advanced 50 years from now societies, people living in this super advanced automated homes, but the old homes still exist. That's the refuge for people who didn't want to sell everything they have to an age of AI, right? They're living in an old brick and mortar building, not upgraded. But the point is, from one side, human brain, sometimes we don't want to process, and we rather, fool ourselves away. So we nothing has changed. This is a fad, blah, blah, blah. Or, they're a cool application we find, or we have hopes that this is going to be a solution to everything. The impact of it is just literally a tsunami that is going to hit us. Whether it's going to be a year from now or 3 years from now, I don't know. Nobody knows. But the best thing is for us to equip ourselves, and that's more so reason what I just love everything Anthony has shown and is doing as the best use case for small businesses to take advantage of it.
Sara, I want to come back to you in a minute. I want to talk about some more stuff with investing as well as down the road. But Anthony, let's hear from you again a little more about just the kind of where you see this going over the next 12 to 36 months. Obviously, no specific timeline, but we're seeing some amazing things now. What's around the corner that you're going to be able to do in your business that's not quite there yet, but you see it on the horizon?
Yeah, I think that the next big step for us is we've been testing all of these custom GPTs. Again, over the last 18 months, we originally started with a pilot group of team members that spanned the entire company. 1 or 2 people from every department that were helping us ideate on hey, what are the most time-consuming mundane tasks that really just you don't like doing and really affect you doing your leveraging your unique talents in the business. What are those things that are like data entry? And let's identify how we might be able to create a custom GPT to solve that issue. Then we rolled it out to our leadership team to figure out what can our leadership team use. And I think the next big piece for me, we'll see if it comes out this week. ChatGPT has been, or OpenAI has been teasing it now for a while. They've changed the name of the model, of the next coming model. It's supposed to be called ChatGPT Strawberry. There was a name for it previously, and I can't remember the name of it before. And for those that are, I didn't know this before reading some of the research papers on it, but for those people that are interested in gardening and landscaping, the way that a strawberry grows is it throws out the root first, far ahead of itself, before it starts to grow the fruit. And that's the idea behind the science with the next model, is that it will begin to think about what you might need next, or what you might want to ask it next, and potentially present you with those possible answers before you even ask the next question.
Feels like Google or Amazon when I'm shopping or I'm searching, already, but it's even more advanced, right? It's just,
yeah, exactly. And even with some of the custom models, again, the idea is that it will help you start to, as a business leader or as an individual on a team, start to think about, hey, what's a possible solution I haven't even considered? Or better yet, what's a problem I haven't even identified yet that I might be experiencing in the business? So we'll see. That's supposed to come out this week, that latest model.
I love it. Sarah, I want to jump over to you for a minute. I know your business and kind of what you do is you also do investing in AI. A lot of people are very interested in getting in the investment side and like, how do I invest? Actually, my dad recently asked me, how do I get invested in AI? And it's, you can't like invest. I mean, you can invest in Google or Microsoft or some of these things, but there are companies, and you talked about this a little bit, where everybody's trying to be ChatGPT or do something that like it is cutting edge, where it's like, oh, we have AI agents now, or we've got this other thing now, but eventually ChatGPT is going to have all this in house, or they're going to expand. It's just going to absorb all of that business. So I guess you were talking about stuff more that's 12 to 24 months or more down the road. That's kind of like, these are truly innovative things that are going to add on and not just be absorbed by ChatGPT.
Yeah. So we probably need to have a whole different webinar talking about investment. I can't really, and then obviously I'm not giving anybody advice. I'm just sharing the way I think, right or wrong. So there's so many ways I can, skin this cat. One of the ways to talk about it is, there have been so many different waves in Silicon Valley in the last, 30 years since the start of the software revolution, from .com to mobile to digitization to cloud to, AI right now. And these waves, they have a lot in common. And the way it works is there is, even personal computing, first of all, to facilitate all of this, and the internet. There is a new advancement in technology that doesn't directly affect everyday life. First, it's at the research level, and then there are a bunch of companies that are shaped and create this kind of infrastructure. And then on top of that infrastructure, a bunch of entrepreneurs, innovators come and build some new applications. Think about personal computing. First, the personal computing, the first computers were not personal. They were like, $1 million, like whatever, they would take a room, they became smaller. And when they were made available to research center, schools, and then eventually home, that's when people started to build really cool games or programs at a time. When internet happened, there were a couple of companies that started providing internet, but the businesses that were built on that, maybe internet market share, I don't know on top of my head, it was maybe 50 billion at a time. But the value of, if we think about the value of businesses built on internet, are trillions of dollars. You think about mobile, the same. There are very few companies that produce mobile phones and infrastructure, and there's like a limited market value, but then all the mobile products out there, several order of magnitude. So, but generative AI is also the same, but the challenges is slightly different. So, when in all other waves of innovation, we have the infrastructure, and then on top of that, other people come and use this infrastructure as a tool and innovate. The best example is cloud. before cloud, for entrepreneurial perspective, for startups, the founder needed to have extreme charisma, go and raise $5 million, invest $3 million of it in building their compute power and buying computers, setting it up, renting a place, running it before they could even start building their product. And what cloud facilitated, we literally made it free. So a lot of entrepreneurs these days get hundreds of thousands of dollars credit free from Amazon and Google and like to build their idea, and then they go fundraise. So it made it faster, cheaper, and opened the floodgate of innovation to people that before that innovation couldn't even dream of becoming entrepreneur. And every single layer of this has had the same story. So with AI, the generative AI, AI had a few waves, and then, people who say it's a fad because, they remember the other waves of AI coming and hitting and then having an AI winter. AI is not a new thing. First AI applications were invented like in the 1950s. What is the different right now is we needed so much happen to reach the place that we are, and it has happened. We had personal computing, we had internet, we had digitization, digitizing all the information in the world, making everybody connected, storing the information in the cloud, having trillion-dollar companies that have unlimited budget to train these models and bring them up to speed. So there is no going back. There is no winter. There is disappointment of people who invest without really understanding this. And those are the people who invested last year billions of dollars in wrapper companies, which was absolute insanity. And I just could not believe myself being in Silicon Valley and see all these investors flocking over. Simply said, because what were the wrapper companies? They were using ChatGPT, give it 2-3 pages of prompt, literally like custom GPTs that we just saw, and selling it as a service. And, by default, if a VC or angel invest in a business, you believe it's going to reach $1 billion market. And even if these wrapper companies, like imagine Anthony wanting to sell, his custom GPT, even if he proves there's like $1 billion market for all real estate agents, blah, 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 what he has done, he has de-risked the business for ChatGPT because Anthony doesn't own IP. So where I'm getting at, the complexity of AI is like when cloud happened, the market value of cloud, Amazon, Google, Azure, everything is about 70 billion. But the value that different entrepreneurs built, whatever their business, whatever their IP was on the cloud, is trillions of dollars. And they're separate, right? So they own their IP, whatever that is separate from, they just use as a tool. The tricky situation about generative AI is the infrastructure, the tool is also IP. So for the first time, we have this thing because like wrapper startups didn't have the IP. The infrastructure, the tool they were using is their IP. They're not inventing anything new. So taking this, building application on top, not owning the foundational model, not owning the system, you don't have anything to sell. So that's one part. And then, the next generation was foundational models. And last year I was saying this is a little early right now. Maybe in a year or two, foundational models will become hot. And my prediction is we're going to go towards singularity, that again, a few big companies this time and an unprecedented rate and volume that will take over the world. And that's going to happen in a year or so. And we're going to have a disaster, some humanitarian, some terrible thing going to happen because these AI models had too much power. And that's hopefully when we finally wake up to having privacy, having, more localized things. And that's when people want to have, their models on their devices. Like I don't want my model to be on the cloud and share the information. So that's
You've
when
talked about private models, how the benefit of you have your own private model rather than having it go to some other thing and
absolutely, and that's when foundation model is going to be hot. So it's kind of starting right now, and then we hear about these small models and different models, and so many companies coming up. This year has been like the rage of agent as a service. People like Anthony who actually creates a thing and they want to sell it and they get investment. And I'm like, I can't believe this. I had hosted events, people come and present, and I asked the founders, okay, how long did it take you to build this agent? And they said like 2-3 months, which I know is like best case scenario is like 2 weeks. They just exaggerate to make it more important. And I'm like, how long would it take me in 6 months to build the agent you're building? And I'm like, probably in 6 months, it's going to be just a conversation.
Hey, Sarah,
just
we're
literally
getting some questions in here too. This is all really great stuff. We need to probably do a follow-up here as
Okay.
well. So we're getting some questions in here about vetting, investment stuff. Also, maybe Anthony, you can answer this one, just the paid version of ChatGPT, the additional, you get the custom GPTs, and what else do you get with that? Is that pretty much kind of what you get with the paid version, $20 a month, 10 by 10, $20 a month, depending on.
Yeah, depending on which you're using. So free version will still get you, you can get, I see somebody mentioned 3.5. So even on a free version, I would check your drop down. You can get what's called a mini version of 4.0. 4.0, if you're using it on your cell phone, is a great tool because you can have an open conversation with the LLM. And rather than having to type it in, you can talk back and forth with that LLM. When you have the paid version, it's a much faster 4.0 version. And it has a much larger token window. So it can research more, it can circle back to previous conversations a lot more consistently. And then the paid version also gets you those custom GPTs that you can save that knowledge base with. You can certainly try to achieve some of the same results on the free version by adding attachments. But again, that token window is only going to allow it to go back so many times and review that attachment before it just becomes a non-functional model for you. And it'll just bog down your device at that point.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So Sarah, just to kind of go back to what you were saying as well, like you said, these people are building these, businesses basically using ChatGPT that, it's really not, they're creating these things that are so dependent on another technology versus actually creating their own thing. Can you talk for a minute, just very briefly, and obviously this is a much larger conversation, but when it comes to vetting some of these deals, we're not giving anybody in specific advice, but what are areas of interest that you're seeing, like something that's not dependent on the LLM model or some kind of the next iterations? Or I'd love to know kind of what areas of
free
interest.
Founder unicorns. That's what I do. And then what it means is, imagine it's early 2000 and a company comes and they say, you know what, we believe snail mail has its charm and we don't want to adopt email. It's just ridiculous. So if a company doesn't have a plan for automating their operations, or they have a plan that doesn't make sense, it's 100% automation or whatever, just use your judgment, do not invest in it. It's like, what century are you living in? So when I see still companies that are raising funds to hire all these people, administration, this and that, I'm like, no, you're not in this century. And then that way, think about generative AI to the most part for the type of investment under you have like 100 million fund investment and such. For us is we can't invest in infrastructure because there are hundreds of million investment to build actual models unless super smart people who are building foundational models for good use cases. Invest in companies that are most smartly, if that's grammatically correct, the smartest companies using AI as a tool internal. Do not invest on generative AI agents. Again, I'm not giving anybody advice. What I do not invest in companies that creating or their business model is just agent as a service unless they have something holistic. Yeah, if you tell me about a company that is automating the entire operations of a startup, I'm happy to invest in because that makes sense. But just one step at a time. In a few months' time, these will become like the actually what I say is software engineering skill would be commoditized because we can literally talk to programs and they will spit out the whole app that we are asking for. So how smartly people going to use? And the last thing I'm going to say, the type of new companies that come, always keep this in mind. If 20 years ago, I would tell you in a few years, we're going to have people who become millionaires by posting their pictures to this ridiculous website called Instagram, you would laugh at me. But now, not only do we have so many millionaires, they're calling themselves influencers and, something ridiculous, 30-50% of teenagers want to grow up to become influencers. It's just ridiculous. And this is the same, like think about how they use the tools smartly to create something amazing that didn't exist before.
Yeah, as you said, it sounds like a pretty good life becoming an influencer, right? Pretty good.
I
life.
wish,
So,
right?
awesome, guys. Well, there's a couple more questions here. Really appreciate the engagement today. If you do have another question, you can drop it in there as well. Thanks everybody for sharing. Anthony, I know you put some stuff in the chat there. Sara, Anthony, can you guys just give people how can people follow you? How can people reach out if they want to connect? What's a way to connect with what you're doing?
Yeah, so I dropped 3 links in the chat. The first one is probably the most up-to-date information. On LinkedIn, I post a newsletter every single week that gives actionable real estate, property management, and tech advice to kind of connect those 3 worlds, how an investor or property manager can utilize these tools day to day. The second link is my personal brand website, which has some free and paid AI tools for those that are interested, which also has a pre-order link for my upcoming property management book. And the last link is our link to Coastline Equity, which is my property management firm, which thank you to my property management team. See a few of them in the chat adding some questions. So thanks for joining, guys.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Thanks, Anthony. Really love that you brought just, the knowledge that you have, the things that you're doing. I know there's a lot of value in that you're creating for your company, as well as people that are working with your company as well. Sara, how can people get in touch and follow what you're doing there?
So I just posted a link to my Luma calendar. That's if you follow that, if you register for that, you would receive an announcement for all my events. The next event I'm hosting, which is going to be a really amazing one with the Google Gemini person, is in Mountain View, California on 23rd. But we also have a live stream on Zoom. I sent the links that you can register. And if you can come in person, if you happen to be in Bay Area, I love to have you. And then what I like is actually my events, even if I have a steam panel very early on, we open to audience. So it's more of conversation. It's not like, just please ask your question. It's like, what do you think, Anthony? What do you think, Bronson? Like everybody contributes and they turn into super amazing, engaging events that I personally learn a lot from.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you, Sara. You're just very collaborative, and it's funny. This all happened. Sara and I actually met on when we were traveling through Europe.
Yes.
We connected and we stayed in touch the last few years. So it's been great to be able to connect. So
That's
again, thank you
amazing.
for being here. I'm going to put my links in here as well. We do passive investments for individuals that are looking for cash flow appreciation or tax benefits. Put that in there. And then we do have another event coming up that's a strictly educational event, just like this one. That's September 17th at 4 p.m. It's called the Real Estate Masters, an expert panel on investing. And so it's going to be actually a group of 4 women that are going to be sharing about just all the stuff that's happening in different forms of alternative investing. So if you're interested in that, I don't have a link for that yet, but you'll get an email if you're on our list, which if you sign up for this, you'll kind of get notified with what's coming out. The replay will be sent out later today. You'll get an email with it, or you can check the YouTube channel at Bronson Equity. You can find it there once it's posted. And just really appreciate everybody for being here. I mean, I always say the best investment we make is in ourselves, is in our own education. And so I think just really high quality content today. I think we definitely need to do something around this topic again, but really appreciate everybody for coming. And again, we'll look forward to seeing everybody on another event or reaching out. Encourage you to reach out to these guys. They're amazing folks.
And I hope I can get a promise for you online here, Bronson, to let's do an event on investments, like from my side, from generative AI part, and I love you to also share, you're so experienced in fundraising and everything. I think I would love to do that event with you.
Yeah, we do events on investing every month. So this is a kind of unusual non-investing event. So thanks for those investors or those that wanted to join that are just curious. And for the new folks, really great to meet you as well. But yeah, we can certainly do some stuff. I think an AI investing summit or some sort of AI investing event. If you just put in the chat, if you guys would like to see that, would you guys like to see something on investing around AI or just ways to get involved? Okay, we were saying some emphatic yeses already. So, but yeah, if you'd like to see that, we can certainly do that. Somebody says invest in NVIDIA and AI. Okay, love it. Somebody says not from you. Okay. All right. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. So appreciate it. Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you guys being here. It takes work to put this together. Thanks to the teams that put this together. And we'll look forward to staying in touch. And everybody have a wonderful night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.